business who wants to be in Richmond and wants to be in West County is not something we've seen from many of our prior senators. They talk about it during the campaign, but they don't always do it when the time comes. Jesse's committed to, he likes Richmond, he wants to be part of Richmond as he goes forward. I know this is hard to believe for this group, but, and I'm not sure how he would describe it this way, but in my understanding of who's running for this seat, the mayor of Berkeley is the more pragmatic person of everybody.
That's just very centrist.
Well, I didn't want to move you too far in a particular direction, but he is. He's pragmatic, he's got common sense. As many of us know, in the world of progressive politics, as we see here in Richmond, you have a lot of ideologues and you have very few pragmatists. Okay, being progressive, great, but you got to deal with the real world. You got to deal with what's going to solve problems, not just make a point. And so Jesse has a history on the Berkeley City Council. He and John Z both got elected at 24 years old. He was the son of a farm worker family. So he lived in San Francisco. He came from not much. Went to UC Berkeley. First well, for those of us who went to UCLA, Mayor, we tolerate it. And of course, we have Mr. UC over here. But he's really done a great job of reaching out, and he's very involved regionally. One thing I know, before I even met Jesse, is that folks that work with him on the regional level, like Mayor Butt did on BCDC and ABAG, everybody likes Jesse. They're like, oh, Jesse's great. Jesse's works, he's kind, he works well with people, he is a compromise, somebody who's looking to find solutions and bring compromise. So I wanted to also point out that we have a couple of electeds here. Gabe Quinto from El Cerrito, who's endorsed him. Tom was one of his first early endorsers. I know Cesar Zepeda was going to be here. He's endorsed. And so he's really off to a good start. People don't realize that and Rita Xavier from San Pablo, of course. People don't realize this primary is in March, meaning that everybody's filing in December, meaning the campaigns have started, as you've seen. So with that, let me introduce the mayor, because I know you're here to see him and not me. And thank you for being here, and appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much, Eric, for organizing this, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you. I look forward to talking more with you in the coming days and weeks. Thank you to the Richmond Chamber for hosting us. And just want to acknowledge my former colleague, Mayor Butt, and very honored to have your support, early support in this campaign. And I'm excited to run for state senate to bring my 18 years of elected experience, including 6 years as mayor of the city of Berkeley. And I'm proud of what we're doing in Berkeley. We're really addressing some of the region's most critical challenges head on and making progress. Just yesterday, Berkeley Side, which is our major local news blog, had a headline story. Berkeley is building more housing now than it has in 50 years, since the 1960s. 1,000 of those units are permanently affordable through the housing bond that we were able to pass in 2018, which I authored and helped pass to make sure that we're not just building homes for students and working professionals, but affordable housing, workforce housing, so that the people that work in our city can stay there. I'm so passionate about housing because I have, throughout my life, experienced housing insecurity and homelessness. I know what it's like to not have a place to live. And so many families in our region, in our state, face similar struggles. And that's why it's so critical that we do more to make it easier to build housing. We have a shortage of 2.5 million homes in the state of California, just to address the existing demand, let alone all the new people are gonna come to the state of California. And we're not doing enough in this region. And it really is gonna be a partnership with all of us, the local electeds, our business community, our builders, labor, and the state to really make this happen. And I want to go to Sacramento to fight to pass laws, to streamline production and build housing. We need to deal with CEQA and improve CEQA to make it a workable process. that's not standing in the way of progress. I want to make sure that we address homelessness as the moral crisis that it is. I know that Richmond has dealt with the challenges of unsheltered homelessness. I'm proud in Berkeley that we focus on housing first, getting people off the streets into transitional and permanent housing. And as a result of the work that we've done, we've seen a 5% reduction in our homeless count. But we know that it's going to require money, and it's going to require strong partnerships with business and with the state government. So my experience as a mayor on the ground dealing with these issues to make sure that we can have effective and compassionate solutions to homelessness while keeping our streets clean and safe, I think has really motivated me to want to go to Sacramento to fight for the laws and the resources that we need to make a difference on the ground here in Senate District 7 in the East Bay. I come to the work as Eric has said, as a son and grandson of farm workers who worked in the fields of the Central Valley, and growing up in poverty and facing housing insecurity and homelessness, I think that really inspired me at a young age to fight for economic and social justice. And if it wasn't for the state of California, it wasn't for the investment in our public education system, including the University of California system, I wouldn't be here today, the mayor of Berkeley running to represent you in the state legislature, the first Latino mayor of Berkeley, youngest mayor in the city's history. It's because of the investment we have all collectively made as residents of the state government, to invest in our system of higher education, to create the opportunity for people, regardless of where they came from, to achieve the California dream. And I want to fight to protect and strengthen that dream for future generations of young people and families in the state. And so I'm running for the state Senate because I want to bring my elected experience, my passion of making change. As mayor, you don't have the luxury of taking ideological positions. You have to actually get stuff done. Mayor Butt knows this. And I'm proud in Berkeley that we are moving the needle on our housing crisis, homelessness, public safety, infrastructure. I'm proud to have helped forge a historic partnership with UC Berkeley to enable their growth over the next 15 years in exchange for $64 million in direct payments and community benefits. We forged a historic agreement with Bayer Pharmaceuticals, our second largest employer, to allow them to grow and bring 1,000 new employees to their site in Berkeley to make it a hub for research and innovation, while also $30 million in direct community benefits, including supporting STEAM and STEM education programs in the city of Berkeley and the East Bay. And I'm proud of the partnerships we've been able to develop with business to be able to not only grow our tax base, but to also support our schools, support our communities. I think it's going to really take a leadership that's really focused on developing communication, strong partnerships with business to get things done. We all need to work together, the public and the private sector, to get things done. And my approach to leadership is really focused on building consensus, finding opportunities to work together, and getting results. And that's the kind of progressive, practical leadership I want to bring to Sacramento to make a difference for this district. My commitment to the people of West County: I will have an office here in Richmond. I will be in Richmond. I will meet with business leaders, community leaders, elected officials to understand what the needs are and to be able to fight for the resources from the state. Anyone who knows me and the work I've done as an elected official, I'm very hands-on, very focused on really understanding what the needs of my constituents are and really fighting and representing the people that elected me. And that's the commitment I make to West County, that I will be here, that I will work with you, that we will be able to make a real difference for the people here in Richmond and West County. So I look forward to meeting all of you more and hearing about your priorities and how I can work in partnership with you. I'm very honored that we made a lot of really great momentum in this campaign since I announced in February. We are the lead fundraiser in this race, and had the endorsement of the state building trades, the carpenters, the laborers, the operating engineers, all of the construction trades are supporting. I'm very honored to have their support. As the grandson of a union sheet metal worker, it means a lot to me to have the support of our construction trades, and the Contra Costa Building and Construction Trades Council, and the Alameda Building and Construction Trades Council, and elected leaders throughout the district. It's that momentum, that the support of business, labor, and community that's going to be the strong foundation to win this seat. So thanks for being here. I look forward to having more conversations with all of you. Appreciate, Eric, you making this happen. Look forward to working with you to help us move the needle on building more housing, addressing homelessness, West County and Northern Allegheny County needs a full-service hospital, and I want to fight to make sure we have a full-service hospital. That's one of my main priorities. Addressing public safety, this is an issue that affects all of us from all over the East Bay, from Richmond to Oakland. And we need to focus on reform, but we also need to have accountability to keep our communities safe. And I want to make sure we can increase our investment in public education, from pre-K all the way to higher education, and address I think some of the challenges that we've seen with the impacts of climate change and environmental justice that impact our communities here in the East Bay. So excited to run, and thanks all for being here. Look forward to talking with you more, and would be grateful to have your support, and look forward to being able to represent you in Sacramento. So thanks for being here.
I've got to run, but I just want to say I was proud to be an early endorser of Jesse, and I think one of the reasons I know him as well as I do is that he's a person that has a regional approach to government. He understands the importance of working in a region rather than just focusing on your hometown. You know, when I served on ABAG as ABAG Executive Committee, he was the chair of ABAG, of the Executive Committee, and he was my alternate for BCDC, and when I left, he's now the prime representative of the East Bay on BCDC. And of course that's important because Richmond has more shoreline on the bay than any city on San Francisco Bay. So he understands these regional issues, and I think the other thing that Eric said, I totally agree with, that he's a pragmatic person, and it's getting harder and harder to find pragmatic people in government these days. So I think you want somebody who knows how to get things done, not somebody who just knows how to talk.
All the politicians probably know who your opponent is, but being a non-politician, who is your opponent?
There are, 6 other people running? Which, you know, anytime there's an open seat, there's always a lot of candidates.
Who's the principal opponent?
I would say my main opponent is Catherine Leibarger, who's the president of AFSCME 3299. That's the union that represents the service workers on all the UC campuses in the state. And she's running, as a sort of labor movement leader. I know all the candidates well. I work with them. I got arrested, Catherine. Civil disobedience. So I know her. She's my constituent. She lives in Berkeley. But I think what distinguishes me from the other people running, I'm the only mayor running. Berkeley is a very important part of the electoral calculus to win the seat. And I have the endorsement of nearly every elected official in the city of Berkeley. And I've been reelected. I've been on the ballot in Berkeley 6 times, elected every single time, and won with 63% of the vote last election. So I have broad support in my community. And the work Mayor Butt said, just the regional work I've done, which is why I'm honored to have the support of Councilmember Quinto and Mayor Butt and many other elected officials. So I think come in the race with that experience and that perspective, but it's gonna be a crowded field. Mm-hmm. So my message is, what distinguishes me from my opponents. We're all Democrats. There's a range of perspectives on different issues, but what distinguishes me is that I'm progressive, but I'm pragmatic. I'm focused on building consensus, getting things done, and that's what we need. Nancy's gonna get things done. She has delivered lots of money and resources for this Senate district, and we need a representative who's going to continue to be effective and to get things done for the people of this district. That's what I offer in the race.
Who are the other known candidates? You mentioned her, but
Dan Cowell, who's the Oakland City Council member, Javanka Beckles, who's on the Richmond City Council, AC Transit Board. We talked about Catherine Leibarger, former Assemblymember Sandra Swanson, and then there's another person, Ernesto Falcone, who's a El Cerrito resident, digital privacy advocate. I'm not sure if Uche Uwahemu's still in the running or not, but but those are the people that have open committees and they actively campaign. So Yes.
You had me at collaboration, and I don't want to put you on the spot. I know you've been focused a lot on Berkeley, and so you may not be aware of the details of this issue. But Point Mulate, Nancy Skinner earmarked quite a bit of money for an apparent solution there that certainly is not a consensus, not a collaboration amongst different stakeholders. I'm wondering how much you know about Point Mulate and what you think ought to be done with that 25 years of political ping pong.
Yeah, I have been following it, ultimately this is an issue that is going to be decided at the local level. There's litigation involved. There's the city council has made a decision they want to move in one direction. So it remains to be seen, whether the earmark that's been allocated is actually ever going to be used to be able to create a park. I don't like the idea that there was momentum to build housing there, and all of a sudden, some last minute decision was made behind closed doors to do something entirely different. I'm all in favor of trying to promote shoreline protection and restoration, to expand open space, but you also need housing. I know that Richmond has to meet some significant housing goals over the next 8 years. That's going to have to be built somewhere. So whether it's there, whether it's in downtown, I think we need to see more production of housing throughout the East Bay. So I'm well aware of the issue. My inclination is to defer to the local elected officials on decisions like this, but I also think it's a prime location to build housing and have economic development. Golden Gate Fields, many people heard that Golden Gate Fields is potentially going to be on the market soon. About a third of that is in the city of Berkeley, 2/3 of it's in the city of Albany. I think that's a great opportunity site for building housing, for having some commercial development and open space. I think you can have a plan that has all those things. That's certainly the conversation I've been having with the mayor of Albany and officials in Albany. At our waterfront, we're looking at the future of the Berkeley Marina, the Berkeley waterfront, including having a ferry. I'm very envious that Richmond has the ferry. And when I was first elected to the city council, there was some momentum to have a ferry in Berkeley. Richmond got the ferry instead. I want Berkeley to have a ferry terminal because it is such a critical means of transportation, not just in the event of an earthquake or a natural disaster, but it is with BART, the state of BART, with our freeways congested, we need more alternatives, more modes of transportation for the region. And I want that to be a linkage not just to Richmond, but also to the peninsula and also to San Francisco. So I'll just say, as an aside, the future of transportation in the Bay Area is a big issue. I was on a call this morning with MTC about, I'm president of ABAG, so we work very closely with MTC on regional housing transportation issues. And we're already starting the conversation about a future regional measure in 2026 on transportation, because we know the state provided a little bit of money to keep the buses and trains running, but BART's facing a fiscal cliff, and we have to figure out what we're going to do. And if BART, if they have to shut down stations or reduce service, that's going to really significantly impact our region's economy and essential workers and people that need public transportation to go to see, drop their kids off, to go to work, to medical appointments. And so we need to figure out a solution, but BART also needs to step up and needs to improve safety, cleanliness, and accountability. Right. And as I think if we're gonna, the voters of the Bay Area are gonna tax themselves to help keep trains and buses running, there need to be demonstrable improvements in how the system works. Because it needs to be safe, it needs to be efficient, it needs to be coordinated, it needs to be affordable, and it's not that right now. You have 27 transit agencies with 27 different elected boards who are making their own decisions about it, and that's the problem. You should be able to go on one bus and transfer easily, get on another bus, or go from one bus to a ferry, and that's how it's going to have to work. And we know we need transit as a critical linkage to get people through our region, because 80 is congested. I'll just also talk with the Richmond Bridge. I know that there's an effort to add that flexible lane, third lane. I know that the issue, that the backing up of traffic on the Richmond side has resulted in some pretty significant environmental justice issues for people in Richmond, because it's all that emissions are spewing into the neighborhoods around Point Richmond. And so I support widening the Richmond Bridge to provide more access for people to be able to get to and from. And the flexible bike lane. And in fact, I just recently sent a support letter to Assemblyman Conley in support of the bill that he's advancing, because it's really critical. It's really critical. We want people to ride their bike if they want to, but we need people who work in West County to get to and from work, and we need to be mindful of the impacts that has on congestion and environmental health in West County. So,
Can I ask a clarifying question since you mentioned Point Melotti? Should it be in the hands of 4 elected officials, or should the people of Richmond have any say in what happens to their property?
I always,
This is not a trick question, come on.
I always think the big decisions like the voters should be able to weigh in on it. That's generally kind of my view on things. I know there's a lot of differences of opinion in the community about it. City council has one opinion, and there are business leaders and other people in the community have a different opinion. And somehow it's going to have to be reconciled. What I promise you is that I'm not going to make decisions behind closed doors and not consult elected officials and community leaders and business leaders about something.
Thank you.
That, given the importance of an issue like this, if I'm your state senator, I'm going to be upfront with you and try to work to try to find an actual thoughtful solution to the problem. So that's all I could say to you is that's my approach. That's how I look at issues, and that's how I would approach an issue like this.
It's only been 29 years since we started this.
Right.
Have you taken a position on Wiener's toll increase, Bill?
Not yet.
Okay, I won't put you on this.
It's tough, It's
He
tough.
just did.
It's tough because it is regressive, but at the same time, what are we going to do to provide that bridge funding for transit? It's really challenging. I do agree with the Bay Area Council that, and I'm honored to have the support of Jim Wunderman, the CEO of the Bay Area Council, in my campaign, and Christina Lawson, the chair of the Bay Area Council. What he said, and I absolutely agree with, is if we're gonna provide money, there need to be strings attached to it. That's the only way, because I've talked to Bob Powers about this many times, the general manager of BART. I'm like, look, you have to solve the safety issues. Like, people don't feel safe coming up. I took BART here, like I take BART all the time, but we need to get people back on transit, and we need to make it safer, cleaner, more reliable, more accessible. I think those are the kinds of things that the state has said as a condition of the money they provided, that they want some accountability, and I think we have to demonstrate that. But I think it's going to be really important that we make those improvements if we're going to actually keep and invest in our public transportation system in the region. So I've not taken a position. I think there are pluses and minuses to it. It is somewhat regressive, but at the same time.
It's also mostly going to be paid for by East Bay residents.
Yeah. At the same time.
Which is why you're seeing a lot of East Bay elected officials come out against it. We're paying to basically, got to help BART, but we're also going to be subsidizing Muni and.
Yeah.
And who uses the bridge? Again, the people that don't have options.
Yeah. No, I mean that's one of my concerns is that it's going to make it less affordable for people who work who need to drive.
Yep.
But we need to, if that doesn't happen, which it's a little unclear whether the legislature is going to approve it, we need to figure out a solution to how to fill that gap. And I don't think we have a solution yet for how we're going to fill that gap. So
I agree.
yeah.
Other questions? If not, eat some of this food. But I appreciate the mayor being here.
Yeah, thanks for all being here.
Provided everybody to-go bags so you could have taken some of the food with you.